Hello, everybody. This is Bill Derry. Welcome to this International Microsystems webinar on Prism. There's a lot of people signed up for this webinar, and people are filtering in right now to the webinar. So I'm going to give them another minute before I get started, and that's about it. I'll get started. I'm also going to be recording this webinar, and it'll be available to view after as well. So let's give them a minute, and then we'll get started. Thank you again for attending. All right, we've waited a couple of minutes and people are still filtering in. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And just to bring everybody up to speed before I get going, we've got some IMS members on this webinar as well. Scott Leninger, who is our development director, is on, and some other IMS people will be on as well. As I go through the webinar and the demonstration of Prism, if you've got questions, there's a couple of ways you can ask them. You can drop them into the chat, or you can, I believe there's a question and answer spot as well that you can drop your questions in. One other thing that I'll mention before I get going, sometimes when we do a webinar, we'll do a slideshow. You're not going to see a slideshow here. You're going to see all content. I bet you there's a few people clapping for that one. But there's a lot of content that I want to show you guys in Prism today, so that's why we're doing it that way. Prism itself has been around since 2013 when it came out. It came out as a hybrid model using backend what they called retail integration layer, and that was basically a version 9 backend. And what you're seeing these days is a standalone model of Prism where everything is done in the Prism mode. And I'll show you that today as I go through the product. You're seeing right now the login screen, so I'm going to go ahead and log in. And the first thing that you'll notice is that I've customized the screens a little bit. Being a web-based product, you can see that I'm actually on a web page here. You can have the ability to customize screens. If you've got somebody on staff that can do a cascading style sheet or XML work, you can do it yourself. Or, as we go through an implementation project with you, we can help you with that. When I log into Prism, what happens is the first screens that I land on are the point of sale module. And you can see that, right? You can see that I'm on point of sale. And similar to Retail Pro that you're used to, whether you're on version 8 or version 9, you're going to have kind of what I call a system menu at the top and then a context menu down here. So I'm on point of sale. You can see the little triangle here. If I click on customers, it comes right into customer. And by the way, customer loyalty is built in with Prism these days. It's either points based or item based. And I'll show you a little bit about that. I won't dive too deeply into that. And then I would go into my end of day, X out, Z out. Additionally, what you'll notice today as I go through this demonstration is Retail Pro kept all the same terminology that you're used to in your Retail Pro build. Secondly, if I go back to point of sale, you'll see I've got different things I can do here as well. the menu that you're used to in Retail Pro in your version is probably up in the right-hand corner, but in Prism, it's down on the right-hand side. And again, being web page, web-based, this stuff can all be customized if you wanted it to be. And when I click on this, you're going to notice that a number of different choices come up. Point of sale, store operations will be my back office, purchase orders, receiving, that kind of stuff. Admin console will be a new concept to you moving from your current Retail Pro version onto Prism. And that would relate to you in terms of system preferences and or workstation preferences. Tech Toolkit will be something that our technicians would use to tweak the system to make connections between your locations if you have multiple locations. And by the way, I'll talk a little bit about that right now before I get into things. The entire polling module with Prism has changed. In essence, polling goes away and Retail Pro has instituted what they call replication. And what that is publish and subscribe. So as soon as your remote stores make a sale, or on the back end, if you make a change in your inventory, those changes are happening automatically real time. There's no polling schedules. There's no tasks that have to be set up. All of that particular stuff happens in the background and happens automatically, much more reliable in that sense. Language, Retail Pro being a global software, you can change language here if you needed to for some reason. You know, Retail Pros, I think the last count was somewhere in the vicinity or over 140 countries. Help is just what it says it is. And then anything under here being a web page, these are things that I've added to the menu. And so you could see if I clicked on this IMS website, immediately I can get there. You could put your website there if you wanted your clerks to cross-reference items. If someone said, I saw it on your website for less money, you could just go out and check. A couple of customers wanted links to finance sites and check in out. And by the way, Retail Pro has its own check in, check out. So that transfers over from your current version as well. Status intelligence. And if I have enough time today, maybe I'll jump into that. It's an incredible tool that IMS has built to analyze your data in a dashboard format, real time, anywhere in the world, SaaS-based business intelligence tool. Reports is Retail Pro Reports. I've also put links here to Retail Pro training. Don't know if you use your myretailpro.com site, but if you do, if I clicked on that, you could see that immediately I get to all these user guide videos, things like that. And by the way, these are the same videos that our technicians go through when they're going through certification training, and that's all available to you when you sign up for Retail Pro Prism. And then some other things that I put here, just a link to IMS support, those kinds of things. For this demonstration, I'm going to start off. Well, quickly, let me back up a little bit. Let me quickly go through admin console because that's what I always call the set it and forget it area of Retail Pro Prism. And this is where you're going to set up, you know, if you have multiple locations, you would have global preferences, different seasons, currencies, regions, if you wanted to have subsidiaries and those kinds of things. Node preferences would be, you know, like your system preferences. How do I want things to look? How do I take transactions? Those kinds of things. And then looking at my different subsidiaries. Let me set the context to this. What's my tenders? What's my requirements? What's my EFT servers? All those kinds of things. And you can see down here that I'm skipping through, and you can see, do I take this? Do I use take and give? Do I give change back? What tenders do I take? All of that kind of stuff. How do I set up my taxes? My hardware gets set up in here as well. Those kinds of things. So all of your system preferences, workstation preferences are in the admin console. Let me jump right over to store operations now. And again, you know, consistency throughout the program. When I look at this and the way that they've architected it, we're going to create merchandise. We're going to purchase it. We're going to receive it. If we have multiple locations, transfer it. We take care of our employees here on this back office functionality as well. I'll talk about this right now since I just clicked on it. It's the same type of security that you're used to. You create employees, and then you create groups that have the permissions. You assign the employees to the groups. And then we've got auto tools, which I won't jump into much here, but if I click on this, you'll see that I've got the ability to set auto minimum and maximum levels on my inventory. With those minimum and maximum levels, I would then maybe do auto purchasing or auto transferring between my locations. Those kinds of things are available to you. Those have been in Retail Pro. I believe they had it starting in 8. They certainly had it in 9. They've made it much easier to use in Retail Pro Prism. So if I click on, like I said, the system tab at the top, merchandise, I then jump into my inventory stuff. And you can see that I've got inventory, physical inventory. You're used to doing physical inventories, however many times a year you do them. We still have the ability to do that as well. One interesting caveat to this is Retail Pro has built an app for iOS, iPhones, or iPads that you can use to use what's called a Retail Pro Companion. And if you want to do a further deeper dive with you at some point, I could show you that as well. That gives you the ability to take physical inventories on an iPad or an iPhone. You would take care of your vendors, your departments, and all of your memos. You're used to this terminology being a Retail Pro user. And then Price Cost Manager is here as well. The same functionality that you're used to do your markups, markdowns, either planned or instant, and those types of things. Additionally, and I'll look at this a little bit later, in relation to price cost markdowns, Retail Pro has written a fantastic promotions module, and I'll show you a little bit about that when I get into the point of sale stuff. So let's jump in now and take a look at how we add things, edit things, that kind of thing. And this is your first look at a Retail Pro screen of information. And so when I get in here now, I can search by whatever I created in my system preferences to be able to search by, or I can do a general search. And if I were going to start saying I want to add vendor name or vendor code, I can bring up these filter elements, a little different than you're used to looking at in your current version of Retail Pro. But if I don't want to use these, I can get rid of them, and I can search my entire file or my tables. Those of you who are moving from Retail Pro 8 to Prism are going to notice that you're going to have tables now instead of flat files. Once I bring a screen up of results, I can always collapse my filter set over here and show additional information, right? Anywhere in Retail Pro Prism, when I get a screen like this and I see these 3 bars at the top right-hand side, I can say, what do I want to include on this screen? Now I'm bringing things over just by saying, yes, I want to see them. And by the way, if I turn them on here, they're going to stay there when I come back in later, okay? Any one of these vendors, let's say I wanted to edit this Adidas vendor, I'm going to click on it. And then always in Prism, I'm going to look down at the bottom of the screen to see what's my action when I have something checked off. So if I go into an edit mode now, that brings me into the vendor editing screen. Now, I don't have any addresses for this particular vendor, but I could add unlimited addresses, unlimited contacts. If I click on that, I can just click and say, how do I want to add these, okay? I then have different screens over here, my account and terms. Now, this is important if you're linking. And by the way, Retail Pro has links to Sage products and QuickBooks. Both, and I just found this out recently this week. There's actually a link to QuickBooks Online as well. So if you're looking at that, that would be very interesting for you to look into. And so I've got all these things I can put, or I can go into user-defined fields. And you're probably used to user defined fields because that's always been available where you can create things to call things. Now, is this a VIP vendor or not? Just a couple simple things I threw in here for demonstration purposes. If I want to keep my changes, I save. If I don't, I cancel and I move backward. If I want to add a new one, it's always going to be just clicking on the new button in the bottom left-hand corner. When I do that on any screen in Retail Pro, I might see a red box. Red means I have to add something. So if I wanted to add a new vendor, I have to add a vendor code. So maybe I make my own vendor. And if that's all I want to do, I just save it. And I've created a new vendor called Bill D. Moving back, and I'll try to go as fast as I can. There's a lot of information that I want to get through. If I get into the department screen, you can see I'm in the same search mode, right? I could just say, how do I want to look for departments? Or I can search my entire table. Collapse my filter. Let's edit this one. And we get into the same type of screen. So the consistency in terms of how you work in Retail Pro Prism is carried throughout the program. They did a real nice job of that. And you can see I've got department long name. If you're using Retail Pro 8, I don't believe you had this many characters to describe things. Retail Pro 9 is probably going to be the same. And informationally, all of your stuff, either from Retail Pro 8 or Retail Pro 9, is going to flow right into Prism. So what you're working with today, you'll be working with tomorrow when you go. And I've got different things I can put in. And if I cancel this and go to new again, you can see that I need to have a tax code for a new one. But that's the only requirement. And these red boxes, the requirements are set up in the admin console system preferences. What do I want to require my associates or my clerks or anybody to add? I can set up those in my admin console. So going through that and taking a look at departments and vendors, let's jump into inventory. Again, the consistency throughout the program. I could say I want to search for a vendor name. Let's do, for demonstration purposes, hold on a second. Nike maybe, and I'm saying it equals, let's search. And it's going to bring up all of my Nike stuff. At this point, I'm going to collapse this filter set. And I'm going to have all kinds of different information that I've put on my screens. And you're going to see that I've got alternate lookup number, UPC, DCS, vendor code, description 1, 2. I could add 3 and 4 here if I wanted to. Serial type if it's a serial item. Maybe I don't do serial items, so I come over here and say, let's take that off, and you can see it disappears. And as I'm moving through, you're going to see all kinds of different information that I've got on my screen. And all of these grids or the stuff that's displaying all of these elements are really up to you what your business process is. How do you want to look at your information? You can see that I've got on order receive SRO stuff that you're used to. I've got margin amount. I believe I've got margin dollars. Maybe I didn't have that on there. Margin percent, margin amount, store quantity, available quantity, and you can tell what store you're looking at by dropping down this right here. In my case, I've only got 2. So you may have multiple. In some cases, you might have 20, 30, 100, whatever. You're going to be able to see them. And so this is how you do a search. Now, if I wanted to edit one of these, I'm going to click on it. And you see, again, all of my action items are down at the bottom. One of the things that they just incorporated in here is item history as well. So I could click on that and see the item history on this particular item that I'm on. All of this stuff is available to you to see how this thing is working. I'm going to go back to inventory. I'm going to go into an edit mode and show you the inventory definition screens in the Retail Pro Prism. And you can see, very similar to what you're working on now, I've got, my DCS, my vendor, my description 1, my description 2, I've got description 3, 4 over here. my attribute size, on-hand quantity, cost, price, UPC, ALU, um, what kind of inventory item is it? There's a number of different inventory items. We can do packages, kits. I won't dive deep into that today, but we have the ability, gift cards. uh, and by the way, if you haven't used Retail Pro Centrals, it's a nice tool. And if you're on version 8, you definitely haven't used it because it wasn't available. But in version 9, they came out with centrals and they've made it even easier now to use where you can track your own gift cards. You can track your central store credits, those types of things as well. What do I take quantity discount decimals? Do I have a maximum discount percent? Is it a regional item? And that pertains to people that have subsidiaries again. Then I have another screen where I'm looking at what do I have on hand? What's my extended price, extended cost of what's on hand? What's my margin percent? I have a number of people that I've worked with that change prices just by changing margins, right? Things like that are capable. Have developed a bunch of different workflows for people based on how they do business. What's my tax? What's my price levels, unlimited price levels again? Quantities, what's my quantities in each location? What's my purchasing information on this particular item? Is it not orderable? Is it a discontinued date? What's the min order quantity? Maybe I want to change this and say I always want to carry a minimum of 5, a maximum of 10. Those types of things, just moving through. User definable fields, and all of these are made up by me. Maybe I want to say this is 57% modal, Cupro, whatever material that is. Where was it made? Those types of things. And I'm just kind of moving through. I then can get to my miscellaneous screen where I've got a long description. Spiff, when I sell this, and do I give a spiff out? And every time someone sells it, I want to give $5 away or something. I've got these dates will fill in automatically. Text fields as well. I mean, if I don't have enough descriptive fields already, and by the way, this long description field would come in handy if you're linking to websites, which we can do. Probably, there's probably several of you on this call that already do that. You definitely want a long description going up instead of your short descriptions. Text 1 through 10 as well. Dimensions, length, width, height. My loyalty information, if this was a loyalty item that I was going to give away, those types of things. So we've got plenty of information, and all of this information can be printed on receipts as well. If I'm done with my inventory item, I save it, and any changes that I made are going to save. And again, when I get into a new item, I'm going to have the red boxes that tell me exactly the information that I've said I need to always put in to create an item. I'm going to cancel this, and I'm going to quickly run through how we set up a style. So when I go into style lookup, very similar. If I were to say again, let's work on that vendor because we're using Nike. So let's use Nike. Let's search for it. And let's find a style. Maybe this Air Jordan. And let's go into edit. And you're going to see that my grid comes up, right? And so now you can see on the left-hand side, I still have my style details, my grid. If I wanted to collapse this, I could and just look at my grid, come back here. And again, just like any Retail Pro build, and Retail Pro's always been great about this. If I wanted to get into changing maybe the 10.5 cost me $135. Now I can change the cost. And if I said, okay, I'm changing the cost on that one particular item, suede size 11, maybe I want to change the price because I did the same thing. Maybe it's 325 now, and I can change prices, cost in individual cells of a style. Right? Now, if I wanted to add attributes and sizes, I would just say, I want to save my changes first. Let's go back into an edit mode. If I wanted to add an attribute or size, I can just add one on the fly as well. And we do have scales for those of you that are using scales, and I always recommend scales um, because it just keeps the consistency in your inventory. In other words, someone might spell black BLK, someone else might spell it BLAC. All those types of things come into play when you're trying to report on those things. And again, if I wanted to add a new style, it's always down in the left-hand corner where I'm adding things. So now I would just go through, add my DCS. I would pick my scale, whatever scale I want. Could be this one. Not really sure what I have there. It's just red, small, medium, large. Once I create um, by choosing, see, let's put it as whatever. I'm just going through and adding what I want. Keystoning to $100. Let's see, this is because of that department I chose, it's exempt. I'm using this scale. At this particular point in time, I could go through and throw zeros in each one of these columns, or I could say create all items, and you can see immediately that they've turned yellow. Now, the reason why things or cells are turning yellow is because I'm tracking changes. Keeps me up to speed with what I'm working on at the time. So if I save this now, those items were just created, okay? And that's really inventory entry in a nutshell. So now I'm going to go through the next step. And again, you make inventory, you purchase it. I get purchase order lookup, pending orders, however I want to work with those things. And this is your first look at a screen where I'm actually using inventory items or definitions that I've created. Now, a couple of things I can do here, right? I could select the vendor code, but that's going to fill in automatically for me. I could start scanning items right here by my lookups, whatever I've defined as my lookups. Or anytime I see this little magnifying glass in Retail Pro Prism, I can click on it. And that gets me into my search screen. Now you're all familiar with that at this point. A couple things I can do here. I could set my filter criteria by any of these things. And again, this filter criteria gets set up in Admin Console. Or I could search my entire table again like I've been doing so far. Third thing I could do is I could create a new item right here on the fly while I'm in the purchase order. But let's do a search. Actually, let me go back and let's search for, since we've been playing with Nike today, let's search for Nike. Let's keep this demonstration consistent. And everything that I have in inventory that pertains to Nike will come up. Let's say I'm going to order 10 of these. Of those. And so I get done. I'm going through doing my ordering, and I say, let's return to the document. Those 4 items that I just picked up are coming over. There's a few things I can do here. You can see that this vendor code filled in automatically. Maybe I'm expecting this to ship next week. Probably not, or maybe I want this to cancel if I don't get by November 29th. Whatever, I'm setting my dates. I'm looking at the store that I'm ordering from, that kind of stuff. But I could also apply an allocation pattern. Now, where this comes into play is if you're going to do transfer orders on the back end that reference a PO. I'm going to skip over that today, and hopefully if anybody wants to take a deeper dive and look at that stuff, we can do that. But I have the ability to set allocation patterns up, right? I could create a new pattern on the fly, or I could use one that's already in place. I can go right to my purchase order details here and take a look at it, add any fees, discounts, freight, anything that I know about up front, I could do that. And on the back end, when I receive it, I could spread that stuff to my inventory items. Very similar. I mean, Retail Pro has kept that process the same between versions. Or at this point, if I'm happy with this, I can just save this. I've got a PO number 189, okay? So if I'm good with that, I'm going to go through the next step. for demonstration purposes, I'm going to say, let's make a new voucher. And again, all of the screens are similar. When I get to this and I say, I'm referencing PO number 189, I hit enter, you're going to see that this button right here populated. Now, there's a couple things I can do. I could say I'm going to just start scanning items to this voucher, or I can go into this magnifying glass, which is consistent throughout the program, and start looking things up. Or I can go in and take a look at the voucher details. But in this case, PO items illuminated when I put on 189. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to say I can make my document quantity here, or I could say, let's just take all due. At this point, I might say they short shipped me on that one. They gave me 5 extra of these. I want to keep them. And we're good to go. I'm happy with that. And I can just say, let's print update this and bring those items into play. Now you can see this pops up. And there's a couple of things that could do. If I had an email address for that vendor, it probably would have populated, but I can just go into a preview mode for this demonstration. And you're going to see that we have a full-blown document design, and I threw an IMS logo at the top of this one. This is just a basic receiving document. But what happens when we do an implementation for you is we'll take your documents and mirror them as closely as possible. We have a full-blown doc designer, very similar to Retail Pro 8 and Retail Pro 9. And we're good to go. Now, at this particular point in time, I could email this if I wanted, or I could print it if I had a printer, that kind of thing. And that document is emailed. So I've gone through creating inventory, purchasing it, receiving it. Now, the last step in the Retail Pro life of an item is, what would I do next? If I had multiple locations, I would transfer it, right? There's a couple of things I could do. I could go back to that receiver and I could actually create a transfer order, or I could just do a transfer slip. For this demonstration, I'll just do a transfer slip. So I got store to store, IMS Superstore. I probably wouldn't transfer it to myself, so I'll go to my second location. And again, I got this. And since we've been working on Nike, let's do this. Very similar screens that I'm used to looking at this point. I don't know which ones I ordered. It doesn't really matter for this demonstration, but if I'm ordering, transferring 15 items, I do this. Now, we're all familiar, I think, on this call with how Retail Pro's transfer process works. There's 3 ways, right? I could have the source update the target immediately. I could have the target have to make an in-slip, or I could use transfer verification. Whatever way you're doing it now in your version of Retail Pro is going to transfer over. We can duplicate it. In this case, at this point, if I'm done with this transfer, I can update only or print update. Let's print update just for demonstration purposes and move forward. Again, I could email this at this point. If I put an email address in there, that email button illuminates. Very, very easy to set up an email generator in Prism. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I buy something these days, if I can get an email receipt, I'm all for it. I don't like to have to go search for paper if I don't have to. And you can see I've got just a general, run-of-the-mill slip here. These 3 items have just been transferred. I still have the ability to email those at this point. We're good to go. Now, store ops. I'll jump into employees a little bit, not much. I mean, I'll do the same search and see I've got a number of different employees and I can edit them. Very similar. Everything's the same as we go through this. You see there's no username for Wesley. Somehow he got put into the system without a username. So I'll put that in for him while I'm here. What subsidiary? I have multiple subsidiaries. You may or may not. What's my home store? I have to put something in there for Wesley. Apparently he came in without one. And when I'm done making my changes, I'm going to save it and go from there. Now, in the same vein, and I can do some things, all my action items are down here as well. I go through and go into groups. You're going to see that I have a number of different groups, very similar to what you're looking at now. Again, employees are created and then assigned to groups, and the permissions are set up here, right? And my employee assignments would be done down here. You can see that. For the sake of time, I'm going to jump out of this. This is done very well, the same way that you're used to looking at it in version 9, basically just a different view, right? Because now we're in a web page as opposed to that executable. And by the way, the web page gives you the ability to have a much lighter application, and you can run it on it. You can run Prism on just about anything that has a the ability to pull up a web page. We run it by a very, very thin client called a proxy. The proxy is configured to handle the hardware that you're using. And you can see up here that I'm using proxy 8080. In some ways, we'd set up multiple workstations for you. There could be different proxies, or workstations are defined by the actual machine name. And you can see mine is B Dairy dash LG. That's pretty much store operations. I'm going to jump into point of sale. Again, this demonstration or webinar takes a lot of time. There's a lot of information, and I want to be courteous of your time. So I'm just going to kind of move through here. And hopefully, if there's any questions, Scott or somebody's been fielding them, and if not, I'll get to them when I get done the demonstration. One thing I want to show you before I jump into transactions is touch point of sale. Now, I did a demonstration for a big client the other day, actually a stadium client, and what they have is a touchscreen, or the need for touchscreens. Let's put it that way. The gentleman told me that he was using cheat sheets at point of sale. Now, this touchscreen is embedded into Prism. In previous versions of Retail Pro, you had to buy it. So it's a bonus to have it embedded, right? So you can imagine that if I've got a cheat sheet, I might have all those items listed here, right? And now if I click on shirts, I'm going down one level. Now I can have as many levels as I want as well, right? I could have that shirts jump into women's, men's, click on men's, women's, and it would pop another level, right? If I'm going through and touching things. And this is just a basic demonstration, but the power of this is phenomenal. So now if I touch that, it puts that particular item on the receipt. I still have the ability to scan as I'm here. I can still add a customer if I want, right? And I can continue scanning as I'm moving. You can see I'm kind of moving through, just scanning things. And you can see I had a reward item, right? Now, what's that reward item mean? That means that I have that set up as if I hit a certain threshold in money, that I set up in my loyalty, okay? Or I have that in a promotion. I'm not really sure where I put that, but that's coming from one of those. It's either loyalty or promotions. Now, to tender this transaction, it's just, fast. I want to have some speed going on. I'm just going to go to my tender screen at this point. And now what do I take for tenders, right? Cash, check, card, charge, gift card, central credit, store credit, loyalty cash, whatever I want to have there. And that loyalty cash, by the way, this is new to this build of Prism. They give you the ability to create different tenders. So if in the past in Retail Pro, we had to take the COD field and actually create a different task tender, whether it would be PayPal or whatever you want to take. In this build, we can create, I think it's 10 of them. It's at least 10, it might be more. But for this demonstration, I'll just take cash. And I'm going to go through and just print update. And you can see I got a coupon that applied as well. That came from my loyalty if I hit a certain threshold. And I'm going to go to a preview. And there's a full-blown document designer in Prism as well. You can see I've got my store name. My item showed up. This is just a basic receipt out of the box receipt. I've got a receipt number that's a barcode in case I want them to come back with that. I've got my return policy. And because I hit that threshold, it's telling me 25% off next purchase, which is pretty cool. I always as I said when I first started this webinar, I've been around for a long time, and we actually built a plugin years ago that would do this exact same thing for one of my clients. We called it bounce back coupons, right? 25% off your next purchase could be 10%, could be 50% if they spend $5,000. Who knows? Whatever you want to make up, and whatever rules you want to put into that, can be done in Prism. It's built right in. That promotion module is built right in. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump out of this now. And that's touchscreen POS. Okay. There's a lot of other things I could have done there. I could have went into customer, but let's move out of touchscreen and go into general point of sale at this point. Okay. So general point of sale might look like this. And the reason why I say might is, again, because it's a customizable platform. You can make the screen look the way that you need it to look. And again, I'm in the same mode as I've been in the whole program. By the way, it's a web page, so I can hit F11 and go full screen, right? So if I go into a search mode here, let's search for Nike because we've been working with that particular vendor. And as I go through doing its search, so one of those, one of those, one of those. Let's close, and I've got all of those items on the screen. Now, there's a number of things I can do on this screen. I've got each item, and you can see as I click on each item, I get different things I can do for the item. I can go into the item details, right? Now, the item details are going to tell me a lot of information, and there's a lot to go through here, so I won't go through all of it. But I've got item details. I've got taxes if I need to change the tax area or code. I've got discounts. I can apply a discount here. I can do shipping as one person buying it and shipping it to another. My associates, am I doing commissions and I need to split them? Any item notes that I want to print on the receipt, those kinds of things. What's my on-hand quantities in my different locations? All of that kind of stuff. And this applies to the item. Now, on the same note, I have transactional details as well, right? So if I go into transactional details, I can say, what's my fees? What's my shipping, my associate price levels if I need to change them, discounts, loyalty, taxes, notes. And by the way, price levels would be set at a customer level as well. Okay. So any changes I want to do in either item details or transactional details would happen there. Item type, right? Maybe this one's a return. Would I like to find the original sales transaction? I could if I want. I'm going to say no. So now I've got a return and a sale on the same receipt. Maybe one of them is going to be an order, right? As opposed, and then send sale. Send sale is pretty cool as well. If you've got multiple locations and maybe you don't have the item in your location, you want to send this sale down to another location. That's available in this build as well. And what's my discount? Do I want to do, maybe I just want to type in $90 and take amount. Maybe I want to take 10% price, details, those kinds of things. Do I want to avoid this item? Do I need to remove it? Do I need to change the quantity? That kind of stuff is done here as well. Then with the promotions module, I have coupons, right? I have preset coupons that I can set. Are you a student? Are you a senior? I'm adding a senior discount to this. I close it. You can see that I've now got a discount based on 10% or whatever it is for a senior. You think its sales discount was $10 there. Those types of things. And that's coming directly from the promotions module. I want to add a customer to this receipt. I add one right here. And I'll add myself to this demonstration. And when I do that, you're going to notice that I do a lot of demos. So you see I got 77,000 loyalty points. And you can see I have an email address, and I could actually look up my history here at the same time, search. I mean, Retail Pro continued along with history. I could see what's my customer statistics, and that's all going to populate as well. Let me just cancel out of this and go back to my receipt. I can remove the customer if I had to. And again, I can make different items, different things on the same receipt, which uh, I think you could do a negative quantity on version 8. I don't know if you could make it a different item, but I'm pretty sure you couldn't do this type of, you didn't have this type of flexibility in either 8 or 9. So when I get done, I'm just going to tender this transaction, and immediately it's saying I could pay for this entire receipt with my loyalty points because I have so many. I'm just going to skip that. I'm going to take cash and then just print update. And by the way, we have the ability to do gift receipts as well. You're probably very familiar with that. I'm going to preview this and move along. And that's pretty much making sales. Suffice it to say, Retail Pro has been building point of sale for as long as as long as I've been in the business. I think they started in like 1987 on their first build, and recently they were awarded the #1 point of sale system in the world by, I think it was IHL, one of those independent study groups awarded them the, and you can see because I had an email address, when I put my customer ID on this receipt, it gives me the ability to email that. So I'll just go ahead and do that. As I said, in this day and age, I prefer email receipts. I don't know about you. And so, if I wanted to make the whole thing a customer order or layaway, I have that ability as well. I can make the whole receipt a return receipt as well. If I want to do a special order, it's going to give me the ability to create an item, and it's going to give me a short form if I wanted to create a new item, where I could just choose the, let's see, using Nike the whole time. And it's just a short form. Doesn't take that long to fill out. I have the cost, I put it in. One of my clients doesn't let their people do costs, so they go back and find the item after and add the cost, which is fine. This is asking me, why am I adding a price? And I can turn that particular stuff off or on as well. It's just creating adjustment memos. And I just created a new item on a receipt in a matter of seconds. Let's add myself to this again. And I made a special order. Now, if I tender this, it's going to ask me how much do I want to take. Whatever I want to take. I've got the ability to set the percentages. You always had that. Maybe I want to take the entire balance. I'm going to click OK. I take this cash and I go to print update. It's going to say you created a new item on a special order. Do you want to generate a purchase order? If I say yes, that's fine. It's going to create one. So from soup to nuts, in terms of how this system has been architected, again, I said, earlier that Prism's been around since 2013. It came out with that hybrid model to start. They finally have built this to the point where it's all inclusive. Everything that you can do in Retail Pro now you can do in Prism. I mean, it's really ready for prime time in my mind. I attended a business partner meeting yesterday with the Retail Pro folks. There's bigger and better things to come. Retail Pro again has been around, I think, since '87, and strong product. We love it. We've been doing a ton of upgrades lately, and expect to continue to do so. If you would like to take a deeper dive, um, please feel free to email me directly, or it's just B Deary, Deery at ims-pos.com. And again, this is going to be recorded. We've had a number of people on today. You can see that we've had a couple of people that didn't make it. We're going to send out a link to that recording once it's finished and complete. I think I see a question here. Yes, Nancy asked a question for the email address. Again, that's just my name, B Deary, Deery at ims-pos.com. Okay, let me type that answer in as well. We'd love to take a deeper dive with anybody. And Scott just typed in the chat as well, another address for you to send questions to. Thank you, Scott. And that just about wraps it up, I think. I don't see any other questions flowing in, but hopefully you enjoyed the webinar. And again, if you want to get in contact with us, please do so. Thank you for stopping in. We'll talk to you at a later time.